during the time that we have together. So please consider that. Turn your cameras on if you can. I'd just like to go over a few things before we get started. Just a reminder, if you are in Zoom and you want to ask a question, raise your hand with the hand icon, not your hand, but the icon in Zoom, and then someone will unmute you so you can ask your question. Also, we usually have so many questions, we rarely get to all of them. So if we don't get to your question today, if you're in Kabbalah Revealed 1 or 2, please take that question to the forum to make sure that you get an answer to that. Also, it's important when you type your question in the chat, if you're in Zoom, not to click on the arrow where you can pick and choose who you send it to. Send it to everyone, not me personally. I love to read your messages, but I'm busy with other documents and handling other communications. So we don't want to miss your question, and I don't want that to happen to you. So make sure that you type that question addressed to everyone. If you are in Facebook or YouTube viewing from those platforms, again, just type your question. We have an expert tech team that gathers all of the questions so we don't miss any of them. So now it's my privilege to introduce Tony today. Tony has been studying Kabbalah for over 30 years and teaching for well over 20 years. He's a songwriter, as some of you may know, a singer, a musician. He also writes prose. And what's most impressive about Tony, I feel, having worked with him for a very long time, is his complete devotion to his students. So Tony, it's wonderful to be here with you again today.
Thanks, Mary. Hey, everybody, don't bother me. No, you can hear my cat over there doing its business. Maybe you can't hear it. This is a special time, and can you pin my my video, please? Thank you. A lot of the things that we talk about or that you've been learning about, you know, they were kind of abstract. Maybe they weren't abstract to your heart, but things have changed a great deal just in the past couple of weeks, and especially in the last couple of weeks. And really, Kabbalah addresses all of this. It's all about the kind of phases that that humanity goes through in its development, what they are, why they happen, what's really happening, and how to navigate them. So before we start with the questions, I wanna share something with you, and when we come back, then we'll get to the questions. So I'm just going to share my screen. Make sure I've got the right one. Yep.
Stop. Just stop. It is no longer a request, it's a mandate. I will help you. I will bring the supersonic high-speed merry-go-round to a halt. I will stop the planes, the trains, the schools, the malls, the meetings, the frenetic, furious rush of illusions and obligations that keep you from hearing our single and shared beating heart. Your obligation is to each other, as it has always been, even though you have forgotten. I will interrupt this broadcast, the endless cacophonous broadcast of divisions and distractions, of greed and exploitation, of yesterday's news, to bring you this long breaking news. You are not well. None of you are. You are all suffering. The firestorms of anger and political division did not give you pause. Neither did the tsunamis of depression and rising waves of suicide, the feverish consumption at the expense of everyone and everything. You have not been listening. It is hard to listen when you are so busy all the time, hustling to uphold the comforts and conveniences that scaffold your lives. But the foundation is giving way, buckling under the weight of your excessive egoistic desires, of your indifference to the other's needs. I will help you. I will bring the feverish fires to your body. I will bring the flooding to your lungs. I will isolate you in your life, just to have isolated your hearts, that you might hear, you are not well. Despite what you might think or feel, I am not the enemy. I am a messenger, an ally, information itself. I am a balancing force, asking you to stop, to be still, to listen, to look at your fellow human, see him, notice her mood, feel his state. How much do you need those around you to be happy and healthy, so that you may also be healthy? How does their health contribute to the health of the tree, who contributes to the health of the sky, who contribute to the health of the river, so that you may also be healthy? Many are afraid now, but you're all afraid together. This is a start. Change is afoot. I am not the crisis, but the knocking of an opportunity. Stop. Listen to it. The day you start relating to everybody else as if your life depended on them, even without the threat of infection, is the day I will disappear. I will help you, if you listen.
Okay. This is the second Q&A that we're doing today. Normally what happens is that people ask lots and lots of questions about what they're studying or in general about Kabbalah. This morning it was clear that all of the questions really were framed through the experience that we're all having together right now. And that's absolutely appropriate, because the experience that we're having is about our evolution and what exactly is being evolved in us, and how the law of nature works with us. And that is what Kabbalah is about. It's about revealing the law of nature in our own heart and between us, revealing the Creator or the integral law of nature in the connections between us. So if you have questions about that, that's perfect, because we can use that to really open up something very real, rather than speaking about the principles that we've been learning as some kind of an abstract. So Mary, let's begin.
Okay, now let's get started with Mitch Pearson. Great to see you again, Mitch.
Hi, Mitch. Can't hear you. There you go.
There we go. Thank you very much. So obviously with this whole Corona thing that's going around, I've already done most of the introductory courses to the Kabbalah thing, and I'm watching a lot of the lessons in the graduate environment, and they're fantastic. And a lot of them are around the fact that thoughts and feelings that we have are essentially directly from the Creator. Over this whole Corona thing, I've gotten the most strange feeling, and it's the feeling that I've essentially, well, I'd say I've lost the will to live completely. Like, I don't mind if I die from Corona. It seems like it might be quite a nice way to go. I mean, with all the crazy stress about, like, now we're still having to make money, and well, Tony would know, as a musician in this time, that's essentially impossible, because you can't get together with anybody right now. So the question is this a bad feeling to have? Is it a stepping stone to a higher degree, or is this an okay feeling from a Kabbalistic perspective? Is the will to push on always, or is there a sense of surrender?
It's a great question. Again, I want to ask to pin this video, because when it's being streamed online, it directs what people are seeing. Okay. Um, Understanding what's really being addressed in our feelings is part of what we need to work out. You see, the sensation of being willing to die is not necessarily the uh, physical death or the disappearance of something. What's really underlying that feeling is the that we wish that our constant use of the ego would stop. We don't want to take sustenance from something that is essentially already dead. You know, the world, in a sense, ended a long time ago as far as the development that we uh, are experiencing, the force that is developing us, which was the force of egoism, self-satisfaction, self-protection, um, and the expansion of the materialistic way of building a kind of a toy construct of connection, of influence, and so on. We don't want that. We already know we can't breathe that atmosphere anymore. The connections that we've built are not real connections. Our concept of money and the economic system doesn't actually give us what we need anyway. And you know what? We don't need it. We don't need it. I mean, if you never made another dollar and you had what you needed for yourself or for your friends, and you know, the basic stuff of life, would you not play music anymore? You would. We don't need any of that stuff in order to have fulfillment and joy in life. What we need is each other. Music is probably the most social art that there is. It happens in what we call real time, and you know, and it's with other people and for other people, and it should be allowed to be what it actually is. So really, what you're feeling, it's a positive thing. And it's wanting to break out of a dead pattern into something that is alive. Our problem is that we don't really know what the new world is going to look like, because it's so opposed to our imagination. And you know, in Kabbalah, we always talk about the quality of bestowal and the quality of reception, and how the Creator's quality, the quality of bestowal, the law of the integral system of nature, is so opposed to us that it's beyond our imagination. Uh, and we also, whenever something happens that in that force, because it's so opposite to us, it feels bad to us at first, until we begin to understand the message that it's giving us, which is, be like this. You don't need that. That's not what life is. Those who live in the will to receive, which is the world, all humanity and the way in which we're connected, are considered dead. So what we're actually doing is we're moving to life. We're moving to the opposite quality as the driving force behind our society, and that's what you're feeling, really. Mary?
Okay, thanks, Mitch. We have another live question. Ahmed, go ahead, please.
Ahmed, you're muted. Yeah, you're still muted. Well, let's go to another question. We'll come back to you, Ahmed, so that you can figure that out.
Okay, moving on. Here's a question from Indy Sage. Hi there, Indy. Does it refer to the inner eye when you speak of transcending the five senses into the astral plane or spiritual realm? Is that referring to the inner eye?
No. Well, yes, it's referring to the actual I. We're not speaking about any of the terminology that you mentioned there. That terminology is is an imaginative way in which the will to receive can sort of get the the most basic outline of where we are. There's no detail in it, though. What 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 Kabbalah is talking about is the actual I, which is the collective, which is all of humanity is really one creature. That's your I, my I, is actually that. Love your friend as yourself is the means by which we enter the spiritual world, or um, the new world that we're moving to, the new level of perception. We were created as a single being. We descended into the physical, and all that means is that we saw ourself as separated, and we only identified not with the true self, which is that force that connects all of the pieces that we think of as 3 billion people. That just tells us the degree of egoism in our own heart. Not 3 billion, 8 billion, even more egoistic. So that's what this world is. Time and space is just the sensation of separation and the identification of the self only with the egoistic part of the self. The real self is everybody, because that's how we were created. The spiritual world has a door in it, and that door is love your friend as yourself. That's how we get into it. And that's why what's going on with this virus is so significant, because it's the simplest, most beautiful, most eloquent thing that nature could possibly do to get us to think, to realize that our life, our existence, our health, our future is completely dependent on us protecting everybody else, protecting their existence. So the connection, the responsible connection between us is a precursor to this love of friends, to actually have that in our heart. It's imprinting that in us. It's a cure. It's teaching us through, if you want a dog to do something, you give it a treat. You do something simple for it so that it understands a motive. It will take a direction for which it is not motivated by any other reason. That's what nature's doing to us. It's saying, okay, life and death depends on your attitude in your heart towards other people. Now, you have to own that eventually. We all have to own that. That's what that whole process is. Long answer to a relatively short question.
Okay, Tony, do you want to go back to Ahmed? I'm not sure
Sure.
if the tech issue was on our end. Go ahead, Ahmed.
Ahmed, there's a little microphone icon in the bottom left corner, and you need to click that so that it unmutes.
The host muted.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Hi, Tony. Thank you very much for the course, and thank you very much for your videos. It has been a very good learning experience for me. I have a question that's maybe a little bit personal, but it touches a little bit of population, small segment of population. In my family, there is this genetic defect called dysthymia that results in depression. According to doctors, they say dysthymia is inability to receive joy or inability to experience joy. So how Kabbalah can address that question for a person who is who has this disease, the inability to receive joy or to have joy or to experience joy?
Well, the way that Kabbalah addresses it is very, very directly. And it doesn't have to do with the cure. It has to do with the difference in direction as a definition of joy. You need to give joy. Forget about receiving it. And that is actually the spiritual instruction for everybody. That is the way in which we reach equivalence of form with the Creator. The Creator is bestowal. That force that connects us is a force of giving. It's not a force of receiving. All of our unhappiness, our inability to feel life as it is, and which is good, comes from the desire to receive. It comes from focusing on the self. Am I happy? Am I happy now? Am I happy now? We all do that. That is the process of unhappiness. So that's one part of it. The other part is that Kabbalah does not address the healing of physical or psychological states. Everything that we experience, any type of illness, is actually spiritual in nature. Its cause is spiritual, and its healing is spiritual. And the only truth and the only healing and the only medicine that there is alignment with the law of nature. So, I mean, if we're looking to get healed from Kabbalah, then that's not a correct approach for a student. And I'm not saying that that's what you're doing. I understand you're asking sort of a broader question than that. But the answer for somebody with the condition that you describe, or anybody in life, none of us are happy, we're all suffering, is to aspire to bestowal as opposed to reception. And it's a process, because it's not just that somehow we stop having a will to receive. We learn to transform the will to receive so that it's used in a form that is a form of bestowal. And we're all in that same boat that you're describing, because we all have depression to one degree or another, and that depression is us being in the will to receive, basically. I hope that answers it for you, at least at this stage. Thanks for the question.
Okay, Tony, next question comes from Hitham Abdul. Because Kabbalah is a science, how would I measure the progress of my spiritual growth and that I am moving up the ladder through correction?
Where's the question from? Do you know? Is it from YouTube or Facebook or?
Here in Zoom.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what level you're at, if you're in Kabbalah 1, Reveal 1 and 2, or if you're further in other semesters where you're actually working in a 10 or not, or in a circle. Level 1. Okay. So you right now, you measure it by your desire to continue. That's it, because you're not yet in the situation in which you're actually working directly with those forces in connection with other people. It always has to do with relation to other people, and it's done, really, the place where you begin to measure is when you're working in a circle of other students who are also doing the same work. And it comes because there's a lot of resistance that happens. You don't want to do it. It's how we work with that, how we work despite that and above that, and the things that happen to us. And it takes many orbits of that. It takes an accumulation of experience until we you can say scientifically accumulate enough data that we're starting to understand what force in us is really at play. When it starts to turn into an emotional sensation in the heart, and we begin to move from our mind, from the sort of numeric quantitative measurement of things into the qualitative measurement of things, because uh, the spiritual is really the quality, and it's always qualities of connection, and that has to be measured many, many times until the needle that responds is the intention in the heart. So it takes a while, right? This is not an immediate, you read something and it's a self-help thing and you then know what to do. It develops, and actually what happens is the measurement is not taken, the temperature is not taken only within the individual. It really is taken of the connection between people outside of us, and that will become a very real thing for you. But at the moment, if you are desiring to go on and you're receiving doubts and you're still going on, then you're really succeeding. You're really succeeding.
Okay, Tony, the next question is from Jacqueline Eisen. I see she's not here with us today, at least not in Zoom. It's from the CobU forum, but I think it really encapsulates a number of questions that students are asking regarding the pandemic. If I understand correctly, any action we take in this physical world has no bearing on the upper world. It's only our internal state and perception that shifts once the point in the heart grows and we continue our studies in Kabbalah. Does this mean we as a collective can't do anything to help relieve our physical world from this pandemic? What percentage of the world needs to change in order to make a difference?
No percentage of the world. It's not about number. You're correct. It's about quality. As a what we're seeing in the world is an object lesson. It's really, really an assistance from above. There's nothing more powerful than the drive for connection, the desire and the need, the understanding that we need each other, that our life is bound up with each other, and we need nothing else other than that. That's the whole issue of the pandemic. There's actually nothing external happening at all. You can even see by the steps that we've taken. What can we do to fix this pandemic? You know, the most brilliant material minds and our leaders and all that stuff, all they can do is send us home. Nobody knows what's going on with this because it isn't a physical thing that's going on. We don't know how it spreads. We don't have any real data, and you can say, oh, China lied or this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, okay, maybe that's the way it looks, but the issue that it's making clear to us is that this thing is coming from the highest level of the integral system. It's very high thing. It's not a virus. It's a program. We are being reprogrammed. So trying to take physical steps in order to do something is doing nothing. Trying to receive the message of the light that's coming through this and adjusting the heart to the fact that, first of all, nature is completely sovereign. You know, it's doing and sending everything, and everything except our agreement with what's happening. That's the one thing that we can do, and that's the most powerful thing that we can do. Like that video that I played at the beginning, until we feel and want to feel voluntarily that responsibility and love without the virus won't go away. And that's really basically all that it takes, because that's what it's aimed at. It's only aimed at our disease. It's not aimed at anything else. It's not meant to take... It's taking down certain things in our material ideas. It's taking away the ideology of our financial system, because we actually don't need all that stuff. And we need to be putting our attention on the quality of life and on our communication with each other and our service of each other. But it has to start in the heart. If we start trying to make these changes just based on our physical well-being, that's not going to work out. We've done that in the past, and we know what happens with that. We just get screwed up political systems. Even ones based on the correct principles won't work. And everything will work with the right intention. So, yeah, all we have to do as Kabbalah students is continue to learn and give an example to the world. You know, we were already prepared for this. We've been preparing for this for a long, long time. Didn't know it would come in this form, but know what the stages of human development are, and know what the next what the new world is supposed to look like, and have a means of entering that. This, if you learn this and you do it and you share it eventually, it will, that's enough. You just need to put a little bit of dye into the water of the human spirit and everything changes. Mary?
Okay, next question comes from a YouTube viewer, Scan End. I'm naturally an introvert and have been hurt by people in general as much as I may love them. How can I reach bestowal when I find connecting with people massively fear-inducing?
What's the name?
Scan, SCAN, second name, End, END. Scan End
Scan End.
on YouTube.
Yeah. We're all introverts. That's exactly what egoism, that's the expression of egoism. That's ultra self-concern. You're not the only one. And things not going the way that we want, and being hurt in relationship, is the opportunity to love. Love has to exist over disappointment and worse, hatred. Otherwise, it's not love. It's just, I don't know, it's just coasting. It's going with the negative flow. Love and connection has to overcome resistance. You see, the Creator's quality of bestowal and connection, nothing can stand up to that, right? There's no barrier to that. They say God is all powerful. Well, what does that mean? It means that the force of bestowal has no barriers because it's not thinking about itself. And this is the thing that we need to learn. If we're going to be like that force, and we're all loners, we're all extreme loners. If we could, we would, I mean, maybe there are some sort of natural, material, gregarious characters. But essentially, the reason that people are gregarious is because of a certain form of reception that they've got, and that kind of works for them. Everyone's in the same boat. The only reason we came here into the physical plane in which we experience separation is to learn how to reunite, consciously reunite. It's against our nature. It's not with our nature, it's against our nature. And that's the big thing that the world doesn't understand. World being the will to receive. We're not going to just receive this. We have to transform our nature. We have to rise above it. Rising above it is expressed only in making connections between us, even though we feel resistance, where we see that every action is really good. Everything that we feel, even on the smallest increment, is just like this virus. It's all coming from above in order to give us an opportunity to take the example that it's giving us and invert our nature. You're not any different than anybody else. I'm an extreme introvert too, with a camera and a microphone. That's all. And with friends, and there's a lot of people. I have so many friends, students, other students of Rav Lightman and you guys here. And the strength doesn't come from me. It comes from what I get from my friends. They're holding me in such a manner that I don't have to think about myself. I know that I can forget about that, and their love, their connection, their protection, they're taking responsibility for what is being said here and what's being communicated. So we can rest in that force that comes from the connection. That's kind of what we're aiming at, because that's how nature works. Mary?
Okay, Anna Espinal here in Zoom, off camera, is asking, does the group of 10 have any relation with the 10 Sfirot? Why does B'nai Baruch explain the tree of life, or excuse me, why doesn't B'nai Baruch explain the tree of life and the 10 Sfirot?
Well, we do. There's a book called Test, the study of the 10 Sephiroth, Esser Sephiroth. It's a scientific study, but it's an advanced study. Plus, there are all kinds of assumptions that people have about the tree of life and the 10 Sephiroth, and they're all really wrong. They're all based in the ego. And so first, a person has to be, have their heart sort of redirected. They have to unlearn a lot of approaches. They have to learn the right terminology, and a person has to have a certain amount of experience with that. Working in the 10 is working with the 10 Sephiroth. A person works with the upper 9 in the tree. The person being the Malchut, and the other people in that circle being the other 9 Sephiroth. But it's not like Sephiroth are discrete forces of this and that give you this personality or that kind of. It isn't like that. It's really that the template of our experience and perception of reality, in other words, our connection to the Creator, to the force of the Creator, is expressed in what the human perception feels as 10. And it's about a force between people, and that when you're working in a 10, you're actually working with the Creator on the Creator's terms. I can't explain it better than that. It takes experience. It's not like something you can point out to people. There aren't those kinds of discrete qualities inside of of a Sephira, the way that many of the books that you find talk about. It isn't like that. So what you're learning is you're learning to enter a kind of dialogue with the holistic law of nature through relating to 10 other people, 9 other people. And we do teach it, just not at the beginning.
Okay, next question. It comes from Tom Kahusi, viewing on YouTube. Is it correct to assume that each individual reaches their ultimate flowering when humanity is connected as a whole?
Yes, because there is no individual. You are the whole. You're a cell in the body of the whole. As a matter of fact, I heard an article the other night in the morning lesson. It's night here in North America when the morning lesson's happening, 3 a.m. in Israel. That said this. It called the Shekhinah, the self. It was from a text, and it just straight up like that. It just said the self, the Shekhinah. Shekhinah being the collective, the whole relationship. It's called the Assembly of Israel. Israel being the desire to go straight, to have a direct connection with the Creator. So every part of the awakened human awareness is really part of that collective, and that's the actual self. So there's no individual fulfillment or flowering, because there isn't actually an individual. That's an illusion of the will to receive. There is only the relationship to others is our relationship to the Creator. Nobody comes to a relationship with the Creator other than through the love of others. Because that's where the Creator is. It's in the connection. Mary.
Okay, next question is from Saul Fern. This is actually coming from the Kabu forum as well. I wonder if the 5 spiritual worlds above the barrier are multiverse dimensions, and the cause and effect phenomena trickles down into our world in which we live in, or is it an actual non-corporeal spiritual world where spirit beings exist and impact our corporeal world?
See, here's the beauty of Kabbalah. It has definitions that go to the essence of a sensation in the heart and direct us away from mixing those ideas, those things with a quantitative, mixing it with the quantitative. It's pure quality. And in your question, there is the mixture. It's mostly quantitative, actually, but it's trying to reach something qualitative, and you can't necessarily reach it that way. Multiverse is illusionary. We now live in a multiverse because we make these separations. The will to receive tries to quantify integrity. It tries to quantify a whole into pieces and divide them up. But unity is unity. So, yeah, there are multiverses in our perception, and we don't identify with them. But that's our problem. It's not that there are objective multiverses. All of this is a spiritual world as well, except that we're not capable of internally having a matching equivalence of intention with the spiritual. As soon as we do, all of these so-called multiverses, they go completely into one thing. So your question is right in the sense that it poses both the problem and the answer, but the answer is not in the form that you're proposing it. The answer comes from changing the intention in the heart, and then the unity of experience becomes apparent, and we live only in that. In it's one and unique, not multi.
Okay, next 2 questions are very closely related, Tony. First question is from Cindy Haytalk, viewing on YouTube. Great you're with us, Cindy. Very familiar name. I've been away from the study with B'nai Baruch for a few years. Should I take the intro classes again or just jump back into the daily lessons? And also from YouTube, Sylvia K is asking, what's the direction for a new student? So Cindy wants to know whether she should jump back into the daily morning lessons, or should she start over and take the intro classes again?
Yeah. How long ago did she say that she's been away for a few years?
Correct, yes.
Well, if you were watching the morning lessons, then you can continue to do that. But I think that things have changed so much, both in the level of the world Kli, the world group, the sort of force and energy between everyone, that you will benefit actually by also going through the course. Starting it again, you'll find that the people who are taking it now they're even more evolved. In other words, what used to be sort of abstract is very, very concrete now, and the world is very different. And you need friends. You need to be working with other people. And if you've been a virtual student, then the way that that CobU works now is that you eventually get to a place in the graduate environment where you're forming a group and you're working in a 10 and you have friends, and these friends will be with you and working with you and supporting you. So don't just go back to the morning lesson. Get involved with other students, because we all need that. And by the way, people who are watching, who may not know how to take these courses, let me share this with you. Our next course is starting May 3rd, and it is Kabbalah Revealed 1. There are 2 levels of Kabbalah Revealed which deal with the principles, and then the courses, the semesters move on from there. It's a very complete training that covers quite a bit of time. And in the initial stages of that, we have a model for, it's basically, you can say it's free, but we have a pay what you wish type of setup that if you, a lot of people are out of work, right? So you can't pay anything. It costs us about $25 a semester to support students, to provide all of the infrastructure and stuff that's necessary. But this is pay what you wish, and in other words, what you can, or if you can't, you can't, because we understand the situation that people are in now, and that should not be a barrier for starting to study. And it starts May 3rd.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. This is coming from Carolyn Hunt in England here in Zoom. Would you recommend studying Hebrew or Aramaic to study Kabbalistic texts? Is there any advantage to doing that?
Well, it's fine to read Kabbalistic texts on your own. It's fine to read them, but you have to study them with others. Studying on your own won't bear any fruit, right? So, yeah, I mean, there is something to knowing Hebrew, because Hebrew is the Kabbalistic language. It's sort of a multi-dimensional language that brings in. It's sort of round. Every term, every word in it is round, and it points to all of the roots, the influences of it, and its connection to other things, other principles. But not knowing Hebrew is also not a barrier to learning. And it's, in other words, it's not a requirement for learning. And no, Aramaic will not help you. The only material that is written in Aramaic, and you're going to find it very hard to find, is the actual text of the Zohar. Aramaic was the language, the physical language of the Middle East at the time of Abraham and following that. So that's how a lot of the information was conveyed. But Hebrew is the spiritual language that came out of Aramaic, which deals only with Kabbalistic relationships, principles, and so on. It was created by the Kabbalists as a refinement out of that language to express spiritual ideas, roots, and branches. You're not required to do it. If you can do it and you're good at languages, do it. Mary?
Okay, thank you for that question, Carolyn. The next question is from Tarek Safwat from the Kabu Forum. Does choosing right or wrong belong to our free choice?
The perception of right and wrong has got to do with free will. Choosing? No, I mean, what we consider to be wrong is actually an action of correction or advancement that's coming from the integral law of nature. We judge it as wrong because we're opposite to it. Now, the agreement with what is presented to us, or with the reality that there is none else besides this force that's guiding everything, including even our inner responses. There's one thing that it doesn't touch, and that's our agreement. Do we acknowledge that it's coming from a single force? And do we want to agree with it? Because that's where it's really interesting. You think, oh, I'm like in prison, because if this force creates everything, even my own desires and some of my own responses, and I'm like, I'm a robot. Well, where is my freedom? And what we're dealing with is like, oh, the resistance to this complete, whole, beautiful, perfect force. So if we actually agree with it, then the whole thing inverts. It's all yours. And it is ultimate freedom, because we are now in equivalence of form with it. We are flowing with it. Its desire is our desire. That's a good thing. It's just that we resist the fact that it is perfect, and we hold ourselves back from the perfection of his will. You catch what I'm saying? It's like a subtle thing between the two lines. Like, we are perceiving that there is good and bad, but there is only good. The only thing that's bad is the resistance that makes the force of light hit us like a blow, instead of us being like that force and acting on its behalf. And then there's no limitation to anything at all. None at all. Mary?
Okay, next we have a question from Ernest Houghton from YouTube. Thank you for sending in your question, Ernest. I feel like I keep missing opportunities in my life. I just want to know, what am I doing wrong?
Well, I don't know what kind of opportunities you mean. Well, I mean, if what you want is material success, or do you mean love, a chance to respond correctly to a situation, and take a risk and be open, and or to overcome judgment, and we notice that the lack of ability to do that will break something in a relationship, that's an opportunity lost. I think that all we need to do is to learn really how nature works with us. It doesn't do it by everything being sweet and beautiful. It does it by providing resistances that we learn to overcome. And then we will understand what opportunities are truly being given to us. Mary?
Okay, moving on to the next question. This comes from a Facebook viewer, Corinne Hensel Browning. What happens when we try to share the wisdom of Kabbalah in groups when members are not committed to dissolving egos? Can we lead by example in the Creator's image with our intention and desire and gift of bestowal?
Please read that again.
Sure. What happens when we try to share the wisdom of Kabbalah in groups when members are not committed to dissolving egos? Can we lead by example in the Creator's image with our intention and desire and gift of bestowal?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're adding a lot of decoration to the basic concept that you're asking about. You're asking whether leading by example makes a difference, and it does. You need to make your friends jealous of your constant desire to really do this, and that you overcome anyway, and it seems as though you're always giving, you're sort of acting, you're pretending. because you need to influence the system so that the system will influence you. Your friends are the system. And we all need to learn this, and we need to learn it from each other, because we're not going to be able to do it by ourselves from the inside out. We have to create a force that's working between all of us. So yeah, you need to make your friends act and make your friends jealous of your constant desire and your consistency in it. And they need to do the same thing, and you need to raise each other's spirits, and eventually people will begin to see that they can't look into themselves for the ability to do it. They have to look to their friends for it. And jealousy is a really good thing when it comes to spirituality. If it's jealousy uh, for loving others and for connection, that's perfect, and that's what it was given to us for.
Okay, Indy, great to have you with us. This question is from Indy Sage here in Zoom. Is the connection with the source a subjective experience and no one can give us that connection but ourselves? How can we guide others to ascend spiritually, much like this class has helped us?
Well, first part of the question, no one else is going to tell you what you're feeling. And nobody else can confirm for you. Only the Creator in the depth of your heart can confirm that. And but it's still not subjective. Even though it feels that way, it actually isn't. But what else do you have in order to confirm your experience? You can't expect necessarily to see what you imagine to be spirituality in the external world. And as a matter of fact, that is withheld from us so that we find the correct place between us, in us and between us, that confirms that without it having to be blatantly so. Because if it were blatantly so from the outside, it would be reception and not bestowal. We want to be able to, you're right, we want to be able to give this to others. And that is the confirmation, and without actually receiving anything while we're doing it. Because if we were, then we wouldn't really be giving, right? So we have to be able to forget about ourselves and to work for the fulfillment of others. But we actually can't give it to others. We have to work with others, and it appears between us. I say this every time we do this Q&A. There is nothing spiritual, and the Creator does not exist inside of any of the parts. It exists between. That force of bestowal exists. It's what unites things that appear to be separate. That's the quality. So what does it take to be that quality in your own heart? To connect things without thinking about the self somehow. And that's what you eventually learn to do. And yeah, nothing can confirm it except your sensation of that connection. Okay.
Okay, apologize for the pause, just waiting for some technical direction here. Jacob, I see your hand is up. We'd love to hear your question. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Hi guys.
Hiya, Jake.
Hope you guys are doing well. Okay. You already mentioned this earlier just now, but you also mentioned something about spiritual love on one of your Wednesday wisdom shows. You mentioned that spiritual love can only exist or occur when there are two opposites that dictates. You mentioned this just now as well. My question is, how do we connect to the degree of spiritual love that you spoke about with a group or an individual that hates us or could be dangerous to us? How do we do that without getting trashed, macheted to pieces, or gunned down?
Yeah, well, because you don't do it with anybody except other Kabbalah students who are working towards the goal. You have to make a separation between the nonsense of the world, and you cannot apply, you can't start applying Kabbalah to your physical situation in the world. That is a recipe for failure. You have to deal with that according to the rules of the ego there. Uh, the way that you achieve that is only with other Kabbalah students. In terms of working with people that hate you or want to harm you, you have to take the steps that anybody else in the world would take. Don't mix the two things together. You'll confuse the crap out of yourself, and you'll end up getting hurt. That's not what that's about. We're all smart enough to know what steps we have to take in the physical world to avoid problems and people who are undeveloped and may do harm to us. It's clear what to do. Now, in terms of learning how to spiritual love, that you have to learn and can learn only with other people who are studying Kabbalah. And that comes from a much simpler thing, a much less damaging thing, and that is the resistance that we feel towards loving others. But only with Kabbalah students. You have to learn this, and it takes a while to learn it. First, in that kind of simulator experience, and you will as you go on in your semesters and you start really, really working with other people, you have to learn to overcome your own resistance and also not judge what they're doing. Because everybody in that situation has the same desire. They all want to achieve equivalence of form with the Creator. So no matter what happens, even if they screw up, do something stupid or say something hurtful, we all know that the thing that they're really trying to do is to reach connection with the Creator through loving others. We know that. So we can say, okay, I know what's in this person's heart, and I can trust this simulator situation in order to develop my own love and acceptance of them. Don't do that in the physical world. It doesn't work out there. After we learn to do that and achieve it, it will have an effect on the physical world. And I'm glad to see you up and about and well. It's good to see your face. I hope everything goes well from here.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob. Wonderful to see you. For a drink of water, Tony, as soon as you heard the clip. In case you don't know what the Blitz is, it's when Tony has 3 minutes to answer as many questions as he can.
I didn't think we were going to do this anymore.
Okay, double surprise. Nice. So I have my stopwatch ready to go. 3 minutes. I think your record is 18. Our record, depending on how fast I pump out the questions.
Okay, and if this is one of your questions and I answer it in just a couple of words, I don't mean to minimize your question. I'm sorry, but this is the game we're playing. Okay.
Okay, all set? Here we go. From Ibrahim Lucky, how can I understand my dreams and respond accordingly?
Your dreams are complete nonsense. Your dreams only mean something if you're dreaming about the work in Kabbalah.
From Zori, has the story of Moses come to you?
Say that again?
Zori, has the story of Moses come to you?
We are presently in exactly that story of exiting Egypt. That's what this virus is all about.
From Mitlesh Kumar, how much time will it take to connect to the spiritual world?
Doesn't take time. It takes a quality, and you have to learn that quality.
From Sam Ledger, is Corona the final correction?
No, it's the beginning of the final correction.
Omayun, can meditation help in order to achieve the goal of life?
No, it cannot.
And in Khrushchev, how do we realize what nature wants from us?
By learning what it wants and doing the same thing in our heart.
From Lubalin Libalib, regarding correction, what do we correct? Is it our mind or heart or both?
We correct our heart, and when our tongue and our heart are the same, that's a correction.
Joel Gonzalez, what happened to Wisdom Wednesday Wisdom Show?
There's no more Wednesdays in the week. It goes Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Great answer. From Ronan, can someone give an example of a desire that has been corrected? I don't understand.
I hate you. I love you.
Joseph, does God or Creator have an enemy such as Satan or the devil?
You are the enemy.
Rasul, some say a creature with names like Demororg Yababoth has created this world. What does Kabbalah say about this creature?
Utter nonsense, my man.
Cosmic justice. Is the ultimate creator a process or conscious desire?
It's an intention.
Anonymous, are we supposed to limit our usage of our senses or revel in them? Sorry.
Your desires don't matter at all. It's the intention behind the desire for whom is the pleasure, for whom is the enjoyment, not the pleasure.
Sam Wolf 123, the Bible says in the beginning, God. Who is God? What did he create?
God is the force of bestowal, and the only thing that was created was the will to receive. That's what we are.
Rick Watts, will we remember any of this when we pass from this life into whatever comes next?
Oh, I hope not.
Fanny Gauthier, how can I go beyond the duality perception? 5, 4. Time. That's a mystery. Remains a mystery. Nice job, Tony. We made it through, well, you made it through 15.
Not bad. You
Yeah,
have to
not
study. You have to study. It's to go beyond the idea of separation. It's a, it's a method, and you have to learn it. Look. The only reason that we were put here was in order to learn to become like the intention of the Creator. It takes an entire life to do it, and it takes everything that we've got. That's what we're here to do. And up until a couple of weeks ago, we were under the impression that what we were here to do was to protect ourselves and to become wealthy and smart. But that's not what we're here for. We're here in order to learn this. And we couldn't even hear what this was, what this method that is nature itself was trying to tell us. Now our hearts are more open to it. And that's what the wisdom of Kabbalah is about. It's about how the system of nature works with our perception of reality in order for us to be able to see that we are not in duality at all, that we are a unity, and so that we can move out of that kind of perception. But if it were that utterly simple, that the illusion of this world wasn't as powerful as it is, it wouldn't take a whole lifetime for people to go through it, and maybe go through it a number of times until they finally can hear what nature is saying. So you have to study. You have to learn. I mean, eventually it'll just become part of, we'll just get it. It won't be this generation. We're going to open that door. But eventually that's what's going to happen. Life will just be that. But at the moment, we have a challenge, and that challenge is to understand the message and learn what the actual process of evolution really consists of, and use that to develop ourselves. That's how you get past the duality or the multiplicity. Mary?
Okay, Tony. John Leonti would like to ask a question. John is here with us in Zoom. Go ahead, John.
Ouch. All right, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, John.
I'm so sorry for my question is to you is just like, thank you very much. I want to say I'm very grateful for your teaching. I came across your YouTube video 6 months ago. Somehow you got my attention, even I didn't understand most of the thing you were saying. But somehow I keep on the teaching. But what I'm struggling right now is I'm doing a lot of readings, mostly in Kabbalah. And when I read, sometimes I do understand. And when I come back to the same reading, I can find myself losing in the translation. Okay, forget what I read. And I don't even remember if I read it. The only way I can tell I read it because I like certain things as I'm reading. And I'm worried I don't want to lose the wisdom as I'm trying to learn as much. And I do not know how to approach this situation. I think that was my question. How can I approach this way of learning Kabbalah?
Kabbalah speaks to spiritual cognizance. It doesn't speak to the material cognizance. It's not about the accumulation of knowledge. And you can take a book of Kabbalah, you can open it anywhere, and it will begin speaking to what you need. And part of the you could say problem or the beauty of spiritual cognizance is that it immediately disappears, because until we are like the thing the target, the thing that the Kabbalistic books are describing, it can't stay in us. We have to change to become like it, to enter that. So it's, first of all, it's good that you forget everything and that you can't, it's correct. What's happening to you is what should be happening to you, because it's not like regular knowledge. Now, the first thing that you said, if you are mixing Kabbalah with other, I don't know what to call it, other explanations of things, you are going to get very, very confused, and it will be like doubly confused. If you want to learn what's in Kabbalah, you need to give it its full breadth. You have to do it on its terms. That means, like, even for a short period of time, just do that. And look at, and then measure its effect, feel its effect. If you're mixing it with other stuff, you're going to get really confused. You're not really going to get anything out of it. Okay?
Okay,
Thanks,
next
John.
question. Yep. Next question comes from a viewer on YouTube, Rasul from the Netherlands. What is the meaning of sin according to Kabbalah?
Disconnection. The desire not to connect. The use of it's just like thinking about myself to the exclusion of others, and all the things that echo from that. And any of the laws that you see in Deuteronomy or Leviticus and all that, they're really only describing different ways that the will to receive overtakes the desire for the Creator's quality and confuses us. It's like it's really just being off target. There's no sort of like mortal sin and that kind of thing. It's really based on just one thing, whether you're aimed at connection with the Creator's quality or aimed away from it. And being aimed away is part of the process. You have to be aimed away for a certain portion of what you're doing. Otherwise, you don't build a desire to be aimed at the Creator. Everything that seems to go against us is there in order to build a deficiency, a need for the right thing. All we are is desire and need. What nature tries to do with us is build the correct need, aiming us at the right kind of fulfillment as opposed to an incorrect fulfillment. That's good, and being aimed at what we feel when we feel ourselves being pointed away is sin. But that's the left and the right hand of nature, and it's supposed to happen like that. Mary?
Okay, Cosmic Justice has a great question. Cosmic is...
Is this really Cosmic Justice? I don't know if I want to hear this question.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
He or she's watching on YouTube today. Is our civilization created out of sin, as we typically use the word? And following on from that, does one need to be fully in line with the Creator, or can we just benefit from getting our toes wet?
That sounds like cosmic dalliance. It doesn't sound like judgment. The civilization is everything is created from above. The type of world that we have is intentionally created for us. My cats want a treat. We have to go through this experience of separation in order to develop the correct desire for the spiritual. And it's not created out of sin. It is, how would you say? It's just the force that's developing us, that's coming from nature, is the force of the will to receive. It developed us and developed us and developed us and developed us until about 1995, and then boom, stopped. That's why we don't see anything. We can't feel that there's a future. We don't really want anything. Our institutions don't work because the motivating force coming from nature changed. It now we are now being beckoned by the opposite force, which is the force of bestowal. Neither of those, I mean, that's not sin. That is a force of nature, and it's our responsibility now to not be unconscious, but to consciously use the force of nature to change our inner nature and enter what we would call a spiritual or an integral mutual responsibility with each other, which will completely change our perception and completely change the experience that we're having of life and collective life together. Instead of it being like something that makes us suffer and war and all of and competition of a certain type, it will be a completely different thing in which need becomes a need to give. Mary?
Okay, we have another question from YouTube from Justin47474. Maybe that's a new code for 007. Anyway, Justin is asking, I'm driving myself crazy. I notice that I am both very selfish and loving. I enjoy helping strangers, but not my family. I'm attracted to Kabu and also think Kabu is selfish. Am I normal?
Yeah. Are you normal? You're normal. Yeah, you're normal. I don't know how to think about the question normal. Is it, you are what everybody is. That's everybody's experience. I mean, maybe not exactly those details, but the more intimate a situation is, the more challenging it is and the more resistance we have to it. And the greater our responsibility towards it. And that's family or intimate relationship is the most challenging because it pushes against our essential nature, which is opposite to the real quality of nature, the integral quality of nature. So yes, that's normal. There's nothing. Give yourself a break. You don't really need to be judging. Am I good? Am I bad? Forget about yourself. Just try to look for the ways in which it's possible to really listen to other people, to re-experience what they are saying and what they are doing. Try, if you're doing something, with someone, try to do it so that they get pleasure out of the interaction. If you do that, you're not going to be asking yourself, am I giving, am I not giving? That's the thing about the Creator's quality. Creator never says, am I doing good to my creatures? Am I actually giving? And we have access to that in relation to other people, but it has to be learned. And what you're saying is completely normal. I just realized I didn't actually answer the last part of the last question. Can I just put my toes into it? Look, it depends on your need. Yeah, of course you can. You can take what you need, and that's it. If you have a need for more, take more. And you will take and anyway, even if I told you, no, you have to do the whole thing. You can't just, mess around. That you still wouldn't be able to do it if you didn't have that need. So everything's all right.
Okay, Edwin Lopez, great to have you with us today. Edwin has a question up next.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Tony, you mentioned before that dreams are nonsense. Now, how we can explain that I have dreams that I can basically can live it the next day or the next week. So, and it's not imaginary because I know I dream it and then I live it, where I can see myself working with people that I don't know, and a couple of days later I meet these people, work with these people, or when I have questions, and in my dreams I got a direction how to find those answers.
Thanks, Edwin. What I mean by nonsense is not that the phenomena don't occur, but what is the purpose and use of the phenomenon? So that happens. Therefore, what? How does that change us? How does that make us capable of loving and caring for other people? See, these types of experiences they're beautiful. They tell us that the world is not the way that we think that it is, that it's not the way that it appears to be, that it's much more complex, that there's much more connection than we assume. But it's there only, those types of phenomena are only there in order to give us that message. If we want to live in that place, then our waking state needs to be higher than the dream state. It needs to be the place in which the illusion of separation disappears. And everything is like that. We know what will come next because our intention is always building that thing that comes next. And what is that intention? It's the intention of the upper force, which is to do good. And therefore, good will ensue from whatever it is we're doing because we have that intention. That's higher than a peekaboo game. And I'm not belittling that. I have also, and many people have these experiences, and they come to us in order to wake us up. But we're supposed to live in a steady state like that or higher than that. Those are kind, beautiful works of art that come from above in order to wake us up, but they are not the purpose of our life, and they don't prove anything. So I'm saying they are nonsense because the sense that we need to have is the spiritual sense, which is an intention. It isn't dependent on peeking behind something, or you get what I'm saying? It has to be intentional, and it has to partake of the intent of the creator towards others. And eventually all of that disappears, at least as a motivating force. Still see things that you wouldn't expect to see, but it comes out of our connection with other people. And the reason we can see and know things is because everything is a whole. It already is a holistic, complete, unified reality. It's only our egoism that prevents us from seeing that in our waking state. Kabbalah's the method of Kabbalah guides a person to be that way all the time. It's not that it's nonsense, it's beautiful, but it's not the spiritual sense. The spiritual sense is something, includes that and is more than that. So let's take one or two more questions, and then we're going to need to wrap up. We're almost at the end. This has been really great. I love your questions.
Okay, here's a beautiful question from Kravenor watching on YouTube. Does equivalence of form mandate diminishing desire for corporeality?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that again. One more time.
Sure. Does equivalence of form mandate diminishing desire for corporeality?
No, it is about wanting to receive the desire only to satisfy myself. The screen, the reflected light, means that we must accept desire. There's no way around it. That's all that we are, is a will to receive. But the thing that's in our that we can work with is to only receive that fulfillment because the Creator wants to bring us to fulfillment. In other words, we are receiving in order to fulfill the other. It's not what it's not the pleasure that we receive. It doesn't matter what the pleasure is at all. It can be a meal. It can be sexual pleasure. It can be the beauty of nature. But for whom? We don't judge the desire ever. We only work with restriction on the intention behind the desire. Is it to fill myself or to fulfill the whole system?
Okay, next question is from Lucas Steenkamp. How long does it normally take to have a good understanding of Kabbalah?
Well, you probably have a good understanding right away if it's doing something to your heart. Ultimately, that's a seed of it that will eventually fully bloom. But full development depends on a couple of things. It depends on the general sort of state of the Kli of all the people who are studying right now, what they've already undergone, what paths of unity they have already opened. A person inherits immediately when there's an inner commitment to be part of that. So the path keeps getting shortened. And we're right now with this coronavirus thing, we're really on the verge of everybody, who's studying, becoming fulfilled one degree or another and really understanding what this path is about. But there is a maturation process, and it depends on the person. I used to say what I have heard from my teacher about what that period is, but I really can't say that anymore, because I'm seeing now in the world such enormous manifest changes that it's like the Creator's coming and sitting right on the world and on our heart. We're being raised up. So if you study now, I would think that it's going to be very, very accelerated, because you're going to see the processes in you. You are going to be able to observe it going through all of humanity. I would think it would take a lot less time than it has in the past. I want to share something that I didn't get to. It just didn't cross my mind, but it should. Oops, that's not the thing. It's this. If you're a student in CobU, we have 2 book packages. If you're a student, there's a 20% discount. And you'll see in the chat what the code is if you're a student for the discount. And if you're not a student, you can go to our store, KabbalahBooks.info, and you can find all kinds of fabulous books on Kabbalah, and especially the books that you see in part 1 there. Kabbalah for the Student, Attaining the Worlds Beyond, Kabbalah Revealed, very, very useful. And probably something you will return to year after year, because it covers just about everything. Mary?
Okay, time for one more question, or go to announcements?
Let's do one more question.
Okay, sounds good. This question is from a YouTube viewer, Mishka Shirinstro. Are there some specific examples about what connection/harmony with nature looks like?
Well, there is harmony with nature in your own heart, and there's what happens when we do that in the world. Now let's go to the second one first. We see what's happening in the world right now, and we're being asked to consider that every action that we do has a life and death impact on every other person. Now imagine that your own heart, this was completely imprinted in you, and you not only in a situation like this where there's an infection that would hurt people, but that was always the case in the way that you related to other people. Not because if you didn't, you'd get creamed, but because that's because you want good in connection with everyone. The law of nature is the law of connection, and it doesn't care about anything except the well-being of the whole. It doesn't speak to the individual. It speaks to the individual in the context of them carrying out its mandate, So if within our own heart this was our nature, even against the resistance, even against proof to the opposite, it still wanted to do just that. There would be no disease, there would be no need for this kind of correction coming from above. You'd see what we're beginning to see now. You'd see nature come back very, very quickly into a kind of balance. You'd see the skies clear up. You would see species of animals that we thought had disappeared return. You would see an economy that was based on making sure that everybody had like a good quality of life, and it doesn't require money in order to do it. We can have money, we cannot have money, but that's not what makes the world go round. That's not what makes somebody work in order to produce something so that everybody has what they need and better, that there's a quality of life there. Money's not real, right? You're just, we think that there's something going on there. What would make that happen would be a change, an alignment with the law of nature would mean that we act in our own heart and in human society and the human network exactly like the coordinating force of nature that makes all birds fly in the same direction, even if there are 2,000 of them, and just second to second they're like that coordinates every level of life, that makes gravity and makes the orbit of the planets, that organizes everything that we see. And that, despite suffering and without suffering. Suffering is resistance to the law of nature. So if it exists within us and between us, then we're living in a spiritual world that is all good. And we're making it that way because we become an agent of nature. Right now we are resistant to nature. Thanks for that question. And thank you for all of the questions, and thanks for being with me and all of the friends who behind the scenes who are providing our connection together. Thank you. Mary?
Okay, just a few announcements. Next semester starts May 3rd. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook and you want to sign up for the course, you can do that. Just look for the links in the chat. Pay what you wish tuition. If you want to participate in the course tuition or simply support the spreading of the wisdom of Kabbalah, you can do so on Pay What You Wish page. It's difficult time, so if you're unable to do that, please don't let it hold you back from signing up for the course. And as Tony mentioned, if you are in Kabbalah Revealed 1 or 2, you can get your course book packages with a 20% discount, and the links are also in the chat. And it's been wonderful to be with you today. Some of you, it just seems like a few moments ago since we last saw you. Some friends like Jake, Kevin, good friend of mine, John Colvert on Facebook. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you soon.
We will become together as one. We'll be forever connected. Всю силу любви хотим обрести, объединившись навеки. ולא חשוב מה שקורה בחוץ, כי העיקר נמצא בינינו. Cuando nos unimos juntos, nuestro amor gobernará. Hey, hey, rise above and feel the love inside. Hey, hey, пускай любовь нам придет скорей. Hey, hey, de corazones unidos, la cava, o se פועל בכלי. Hey, hey, rise above and feel the love inside. Hey, hey, Пускай любовь нам придет скорее. Эй, эй, de corazones unidos, la cava, או שפועל בכלי. אותה משפחה, אותה הרגשה, מעל הפער שבינינו. The higher we go, reaching our soul, we will reveal that connection. Не важно, что там происходит вокруг, а важна связь между друзьями. Y aunque parezca como un malestar, nuestra actitud controlará. Hey, hey, rise above and feel the love inside. Hey, hey, пускай любовь нам придет скорее. Hey, hey, de corazones unidos, la cava, ocean por el bakli. Hey, hey, rise above and feel the love inside. Hey, hey, пускай любовь нам придет скорее. Hey, hey, de corazones unidos, la cava, ocean por el bakli. Hey, hey, rise above and feel the love inside. Hey, hey, пускай любовь нам придет скорее. Hey, hey, de corazones unidos, la cava, ocean por el bakli. Hey, hey, rise above and feel the love inside. Hey, hey, пускай любовь нам придет скорее. Hey, hey, de corazones unidos, la cava, ocean por el bakli. Hey, hey.